All right, good morning. It's been a hot minute. This did not go according to plan at all. I thought I would be doing weekly videos, and then life has absolutely smashed me. So we were moving in the third week, and I knew that I wouldn't be training. But what I didn't expect was Maya got influenza A at the end of that week, meaning I had a whole second week off. And that was probably one of the most demanding weeks of my life with work, moving, sick kid, newborn. It was really full on. So I again didn't train that whole week, and I couldn't even think about doing a video like this. Now, this is now the fifth week, so coming towards the end of it. And I had an interesting reflection during this whole process. And what I noticed is when I need to be like a leader role, like in that first week of the move, like organizing the kids, organizing the house, trying to get stuff done. Even when Maya was sick, I notice when I have a lot of pressure on myself, I perform really high. It's like I knew I couldn't go to the gym, but I controlled my nutrition. I made sure I was doing really well. At one point, my scale got to 69.6. Because that was the thing. I was like, the one thing I know is that right now I am in a diet. So if I'm in a diet, I'm doing it properly. Yes, I might not be getting enough fiber. I might not even be hitting my protein as high as I'd like, but I'm making sure that I'm in a deficit. But yeah, I performed really well. But what ended up happening after that, just last week, was now that Maya's not sick and we were going to her new daycare, she had really hard mornings, crying quite intensely. And I started to feel the emotion of guilt, lots of guilt. And I can definitely pinpoint that when I feel guilt, that is when I emotionally eat. So I last week really did not follow the plan at all. I was trying, but then I was still eating little bits of crackers and stuff as I was going. And those if you looked, if you zoomed out and looked at what I ate, you'd be like, yeah, you still did oats and you still did your lunch and you still had your dinner with your family. But truly, the little snacky things that we think don't matter are the things that are the most. The little snacks that we don't think matter really affect the most. And so, yeah, I noticed my scale went the other way. And now I'm sitting roughly at about 70.5 kilos in week 5, which I'm still really happy with because that's about 4 kilo drop in 5 weeks, which is great. I don't want to lose too much breastfeeding, of course. And again, I think that there's too many extremes in the world, right? There's women who extremely want to lose so much weight after having a baby. And then there's so many women who are too scared to even think about it because they're breastfeeding. And again, each to their own, never a judgment on my part. But I guess for me, I'm always there's a middle ground that we can all live in. And that's what feels really good to me. To me, I'm still at a very healthy body fat percentage. So I know my milk supply won't be negatively impacted. And that's the most important thing. So what I want to do this week is just go over tracking some food and being accurate, because I think that is why most people don't see the results they want to see when they're dieting. I do have clients, I will say, who are incredible with their tracking, and some bodies still have a difficult time. And that's important to acknowledge as well. But can we fix human error? That's step 1. So I'll just show you, obviously you've just seen me make that coffee. I weigh out my milk. I don't just say a dash, or I don't just, everything gets put on that scale when I'm dieting. I'm just going to do a home training session. I actually don't have all of the handles and attachments for my cables yet. So you'll see I'm just kind of making do with what I have. But it's also kind of a week of deloading a new program because it's a whole new gym setup. I'm still testing the weights. I'm trying to set the rep ranges. So we'll see how we go. so let's chat a little bit about tracking accuracy this week. So the worst thing I think that someone can do outside of not tracking is tracking after they've ate or tracking during the process of making the food. It's a headache, and most clients I've worked with the people who do it that way don't succeed in doing it long term. It's not a good system. The best tracking system is to actually track before you prepare your food. So pre-plan it. So for example, and I'll just show right here, this is what I've got planned for my day. I have my oats, I have my rice and my prawns and my veggies, and then I've left 1,000 calories for my dinner. And you can see here that I also have my snacks. So a good practice is like the night before, putting everything in accurately so that the day of, all you have to do is you almost like open up the app to follow the meal plan to make sure the measurements are the same that you had planned. It takes the guesswork out of it. And if anything, you could even pre-pack everything that night, and then you literally don't have to use the app other than your evening meal when you're tracking. So you can see here now, I've added my dinner. We're having salmon tonight, so this is kind of the general way I'm doing it. It's lucky that this dinner I can individually track, but if it was something like pasta, it would be very generalized. I would still try to add it in, but it just wouldn't be as accurate as what the individual portion size meals can be. If you're tracking, you might as well do it properly. So make sure that if it does have a brand name, use that brand name. And then also check the nutrition label before you add the entry that you see on MyFitnessPal, because there's a ton of human error on that page. Now, the last thing that you can do to help with accuracy is with processed or packaged foods, we have a nutrition label that we can actually go off, but whole foods don't have that. So the Australian Food Database is something you can type into Google, and you can find a database that you can compare whole food entries to MyFitnessPal. So for example, you could write, and I'll pop one here, chicken breast, 100 grams without skin, and that website will show you what the macro should be. You would then go into MyFitnessPal and find something of very similar form to then use for your entry. Now, not everyone needs to be to the gram and to be completely accurate, but you want to find something as close to, because there's a ton of wildly inaccurate entries in MyFitnessPal. I know it's annoying, but at the same time, my argument is we're trying to learn how to be mindful eaters. If it's too much for you to look at some information and fact check, I mean, maybe that's an issue of us being so used to being mindless that it is a little bit annoying. But you hope over time, it's just part of who you are, and you want to be a mindful person with intention. So this is all part of that process too. Okay, so you can see these prawns that I use, and you can see the brand name on it. Now, I'm not just going to search generic prawns. I would actually punch this in, of course. And then looking at the nutrition label, again, you want to match to make sure what you are measuring out is accurate. Now, with the food scale, always remember, if something's frozen, you want to weigh it frozen, not thawed out. So I'm going to do 300 grams. That's good enough. 305. And that's the weight that I'm making for 2 days worth of prawns. And just to compare the cooked prawns, that goes down a whole 100 grams just from cooking it. So imagine you weighed that cooked rather than raw. You're actually 100 grams off. Okay, so that's it for this week. One thing that I will flag is that Sophia has been having really bad sleeps. She's 3.5 months, so I wouldn't think that she's getting to a regression yet, but maybe teething signs, just whatever, being a baby. She's been waking up a lot. She's been waking up like 5 to 6 times in a night. Now, I was planning to do a slow reverse, but I'm just going to flag this right now. I'm actually not, because again, this is the whole thing. I had this plan of what I wanted to film for this video series, but then the reality is motherhood happens. And I don't want to be in a diet if I am not sleeping optimally. I was really lucky. For that 4 or 5 weeks there, I was actually still getting good night sleeps with Sophia, even with the stress of moving and all of that. But now that Maya's not sick, that she's in school, I thought I could focus on, okay, a good strategic reverse, bam. Now I'm not sleeping very well. Now, when we aren't sleeping well, we have a higher chance when being in a diet that we will lose muscle mass. I am not willing to do that. I am okay with gaining another kilo from this experiment in the process of going straight to maintenance rather than reversing. I am not okay with losing this tiniest amount of muscle. That's way too important to me. So in my personal, like with my personal goals, it makes more sense to not reverse and to just jump back into what my calories are, which is about 2,700. Will I gain from that, from where I am now? Perhaps. I don't know. Some people are against reversing because they don't think it's evidence-based enough. Other people claim it's the only way. I live, again, in the middle. I like to reverse my clients and myself usually because the idea is you just don't know what's changed. So why not make sure you find out what your maintenance is rather than using a calculation, because less than 10% of the people I've ever worked with actually are what that calculation states. So everyone's a little bit different. No one's textbook. So I do like to reverse, usually just to be accurate. And especially with clients, someone might have worked really hard to lose a certain amount of weight, and maybe they really don't want to put on, or they want to put on as little as possible as we build their calories up. So that's where that process is really quite helpful. However, in my case, I am okay with gaining. I'm not okay with losing muscle. So right now, while I am quite sleep deprived, it actually makes the most sense for me to just get back to maintenance and live my life. So it kind of makes the series end short with not what I wanted to do. I'm going to revisit some of these principles later on. I do want to keep doing this of just trying to balance the idea of sharing my life and my process while also trying to educate on those details, just to help, I guess, in a way that is more long form content, more calm. I just don't like the whole Instagram sell type of thing it's become, where I feel like this is more me being able to share, as in I was having a conversation with someone. So that's my plan. If anything, I hope this series has highlighted that no one gets a perfect run at their goals, and we do just have to try to work with what we can. Remember, no matter how busy you are, yes, we might be too busy sometimes to train or to get our steps, but if you are too busy, you should be hitting your nutrition. Because if you are too busy, that is not an excuse. That is a reason that you need to be meal prepping on Sundays if you cannot see time to prioritize yourself with your nutrition during the week. It saves you time. That hour on a Sunday sets up your week for all of the mishaps that could potentially happen. Like, I had a newborn with a sick kid while moving, and I was meal prepping. And again, what I realized was the moment that I did not follow my plan was because of emotional eating due to mom guilt, which, again, interesting. I need to dive into that more. But it's a way of keeping yourself accountable for all of these mishaps that could potentially happen. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I will chat to you soon.